is a beautiful sunny afternoon here, and I'm in a front-wheel drive sports car. These are kind of unusual. This car is even more unusual because it was never sold new in North America. This is a 1996 Alfa Romeo 916 Spider. So we're going to try out a front-wheel drive sports car, see what it's like to drive, and we're going to figure out if we were missing out on this car. Maybe we kind of missed out on the 916, or maybe it was just fine without it. Let's turn the key, turn on the 2-liter twin-spark engine. And let's get on the road. Putting on the shades because it's beautiful out. All right, the Alfa Romeo 916. Now, the 916, you have to realize it actually is a set of twins. I'm driving one of them, which is the 916 Spider, which is an open-top 2-seat convertible. There was also the 916 GTV, which was a 2+2 coupe. Both these cars replaced models in Alfa Romeo's lineup that were very outdated. The GTV replaced the Alfetta GTV, which had been in production since 1987, and the Spider that I'm driving replaced the Spider, and that car had been in production since 1966. So it was high time for an upgrade and an update when Alfa Romeo was developing these cars. The other thing about the development of these cars is that it occurred after Fiat had purchased Alfa Romeo. So because of that, this car is based on a Fiat chassis. Namely, it is the Type 2 chassis, which is front-wheel drive. Now, the Type 2 chassis is just fine, and it underpins a lot of Fiat products and even a few hot hatches. However, Alfa Romeo engineers decided that it wasn't up to snuff for Alfa Romeo duty and that they were going to heavily rework it to update its sporting credentials. To that end, they added more Ackerman angle to the front end. That means that the inside wheel turns a little farther than the outside one so that the turn-in is more crisp. It does compromise the turning circle, but that's a compromise they're willing to make. But the big change they made is actually out back. The typical Fiat chassis had a trailing arm setup that was pretty basic. Instead, Alfa Romeo made their own double wishbone setup back there, which is very complicated, does intrude on passenger and cargo space, but it is a much more sophisticated rear suspension, and they even designed a level of passive rear steer into the system. Basically, as the car leans through turns, the rear wheels work to help this car guide it through the turns. So they actually heavily reworked this chassis quite a bit, and the same can be said under hood. They offered a 4-cylinder engine and a V6. This car we're driving is a 4-cylinder, so that's what we're going to be talking about mostly today. It's based on a Fiat block, but Alfa Romeo designed their own cylinder head, and it's called the twin spark. As name implies, there are 2 spark plugs per cylinder, which is a bit unusual. Most engines just have 1 per cylinder. Now, adding a second cylinder does slightly increase horsepower in this application, but its main job was to help the engine run leaner and burn cleaner, which makes it more fuel efficient. And it works. It's not a big engine, only 2 liters, but it does make a decent amount of power and a great noise. The factory exhaust in these cars is pretty quiet, so when you step on it, what you're hearing isn't the exhaust. It's all the induction, the sound of the engine breathing. I love that sound. This car also uses variable cam timing and variable length intake runners that help it make 150 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque. That's a good amount of power for a 2-liter, but this car isn't light. It weighs just over 3,000 pounds. It's a lot of car to move, and so acceleration is not fast, and it doesn't even feel fast when you drive it. Some cars aren't fast, but they feel fast. This car isn't fast, and it doesn't feel fast. But I'll tell you one thing, it does sound fast, as I'll demonstrate accelerating under this railroad bridge. Foot to the floor. So it's not exactly a powerhouse. To be fair, if you wanted more power in a 916, you could simply opt for the 3-liter V6. It made substantially more power, 190 in early versions and about 220 in later versions. That said, it did compromise the already very front-heavy weight distribution of these cars. So that's the nuts and the bolts and the oily parts of this car, but what you really notice with this car is the styling. It's very distinct, and I must say, absolutely every review of this car when it was new was struck by the styling. They had never seen anything so breathtakingly beautiful. I don't think it's a bad looking car. Maybe my eyes need some calibration because I don't think it's some kind of Mona Lisa beauty. It certainly is an interesting design, and it is penned by Enrico Fumia. And an interesting bit is that his idea for this look, you know, this kind of clamshell front end with the 4 recessed headlights, actually can be dated back to his 1981 Audi Quartz concept car. And the kind of up-kicked rear with a very tall trunk and this angled belt line that runs basically from the headlights to the top of the trunk can be seen in his 1988 Ferrari F90 concept car. Frankly, I'm not about to call either one of those cars especially good looking, but I will say that Mr. Enrico did have a vision. He clearly knew what he wanted to do, and he finally got a chance to do it on a production car. The styling is very unique, and on the coupe and the Spider, the front end is exactly the same. However, the rear is a little different. The Spider having a bit more of a mild tail treatment compared to the coupe. I actually prefer the look of the Spider. I think it really pronounces the wedge profile, and I think that this car's best angle is actually when you view it in profile from the side, because you get to see that he uses the panel gaps themselves as character lines that run almost the entire length of the car and culminate at the very top underneath the, I don't know what you call it, the lid for the top, where the folding top goes. It culminates there. It's a very interesting style. It just, I don't know if I love it. I don't know if I love it. I love how this car drives. I'm not sold on how it looks. Thankfully, if you don't love the dramatic exterior, the interior is much more conventional. I like that you have these gauges that start their sweep at 6 o'clock. It's very classic with the chrome bezels. And another nod to the classic Alfa Romeo Spiders I love are these 3 gauges which are angled at me. From left to right, I have a fuel gauge, a clock, and water temperature. But I'll say the 1990s are not my favorite era for interior design. And the 90s are I think probably my least favorite decade for steering wheels. This decade of very early steering wheel airbag development was rough. You can see they were really struggling with how to fit a giant airbag into a steering wheel. It's massive, it's very rubbery. It's definitely the sore spot of this interior aesthetically. It would either protect me in a crash or decapitate me because these early airbags are quite potent. That said, at least the passenger airbag is wrapped in leather, and I was interested to learn that the Alfa Romeo embroidery on the seats is actually factory, not the embellishment of a previous owner, like the Spider-Man badge on the back. Like I said earlier, this car was actually never sold in North America. This exact car was sold new in Japan. Even though it's left-hand drive, this is a JDM car. And I'm able to drive this car in Canada because it's actually for sale right now at Scarboro Subaru. It's very cool of them to let me borrow this car. And you might be wondering, well, why does a Subaru dealership have a Alfa Romeo in stock? And the answer is pretty simple. The people that work at Scarboro Subaru, they're like us. They're car people. They love classic and interesting cars, and as sort of a sideline to their main business, which is selling and servicing brand new Subarus, they buy and fix up and sell interesting and classic cars almost all the time. So if you have a minute, I highly recommend you go to ScarboroSubaru.ca and peruse their inventory selection, because you never know. They have something classic or interesting kind of all the time on the corner of the lot, and I really appreciate that. And I love the sound this engine makes. Twin spark. I love revving out classic cars like this one, and I hope you enjoy watching videos about them. To help me make more videos like this, it really does help me if you hit the subscribe button, comment, like the video, all that annoying YouTuber stuff. It does actually help and make a difference. And if you have a car you'd like to see featured on the channel, please reach out to me at classiccarsandclayton@gmail.com. But now let's get back to driving this car. What is this car like to drive? short answer is it's really good. It's a really, really good car to drive. It's interesting that it's front-wheel drive and it's quite heavy, but it feels neutral, agile, fun, and playful in a way that a front-wheel drive car just usually doesn't. I mean, it likes to be tossed around, and I can feel the weight, but the steering rack is really fast, and it makes it feel like a car that I can just chuck in the corners. All that work that Alfa Romeo put in to refining the Fiat chassis really did work, because I mean, you can just chuck it in the corners and it just sticks. And that twin spark engine sounds incredible. I just love the sound of this engine. So, did Alfa Romeo miss by never selling us this car in North America? I don't think it would have really been a hit here. For starters, every single one was a manual transmission. That's already a hard sell in North America. Number two, the roadsters that North American buyers wanted at the time were rear-wheel drive, lighter weight offerings like the BMW Z3, later the Z4, and of course the Mazda Miata, things like that. So I don't think the buying public was looking for basically a front-wheel drive, manual transmission GT car. And the styling, I don't know, it's 50-50 if North Americans would have liked it. The Europeans certainly did, and this car was actually really popular. They sold a lot, Spyders and Coupes. In fact, the most popular version was a 2-liter Spider, just like this. This is the most common combination, because of course you can get Spider and Coupe with the 2-liter or the 3-liter V6 that came in a bunch of different varieties. Would you want to own one today? Well, assuming you could find one, I think that you would want one of these if you want to drive something truly different. There's not a lot of empirical reasons to have this car. It's not the fastest thing you can buy for the money, and it's not the most classic thing. It's certainly as practical and as usable as you need it to be. It has a decent trunk, it's a modern car, it has air conditioning, but to me, while it is fun to drive, and this one is only being, the asking price for this one is only $12,000 Canadian, I don't know, for that money, I'd still be looking at something older, but you never know. It's certainly an interesting left field choice. If you're someone that's looking for a CRX and can't find a clean one, well, here you go. And interestingly, the CRX and the M100 front-wheel drive Lotus Elan were the two cars that Alfa Romeo benchmarked for handling when developing this car. In the end, my take on the Alfa Romeo 916 is that it was an interesting time. There was a time when front-wheel drive sporty cars had a real moment. But I think that we're just past that now. I think that it doesn't either exist in the classic era of, chrome bumper, rear-wheel drive cars, and it's not fast and spunky enough to exist in the modern era of front-wheel drive performance cars like a Focus ST or even an Elantra M, something like that. It's this interesting middle ground. And I think it certainly did well for Alfa Romeo at the time, and goodness gracious, they needed a new car to replace their antiques they were offering back then. But for me, I don't know. I still prefer something rear-wheel drive, maybe a bit more classic. That being said, I hope you enjoyed the review. Thanks so much for watching. And if you want to see me review another front-wheel drive Italian car, check out my review of the 1982 Lancia Vita Zagato Spider. In fact, that's another front-wheel drive, 4-cylinder, open-top Italian car. One of their channels will give you 2 of those. Thanks for watching, and now more twin spark noises. It does drive just like a fat CRX, a luxury CRX. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Like, it really does corner amazingly well. It must be said. think of anything else from the 1990s that sounds that good for a 4-cylinder. No turbos, just revs. Lots of them.